Can you all see my screen? Awesome, gotta make sure it's the right one. Well, hello everybody, thank you for coming to this talk. It's entitled Minority Entrepreneurs, Online Businesses and COVID-19. My name is Joseph Coll. I'm just one part of a team that's looking at how these online businesses, or what we call ventures, impact minority entrepreneurs and kind of might have mediated the impact of COVID-19. Before I get too far along, I want to say these have been some amazing talks so far, and I really hope that this presentation can help add to the conversation we've been having. So we talk about ventures. What are these ventures? Well, ventures are kind of like active domain name hosts and any redirects it might have. These ventures might represent like businesses, nonprofits, causes, ideas, so on and so forth. And we kind of have data on these ventures that's shared with us by GoDaddy, which is the largest domain name host registrar, with over 20 million ventures just in the US alone. What we kind of want to do is get to know these ventures, get to know who owns these ventures, the purposes, who's making money off them, so on and so forth. To this effect, we took two separate samples, one in July of 2019. It was just a random sample of online venture owners to kind of understand, like, who are these venture owners? Are they making money? Things like that. Then again in May 2020 to understand like the impacts of COVID-19 and those types of characteristics. So for starters, just going to go over some basic, venture characteristics of the individuals of the ventures themselves. If we look at the number of employees, we see that 52% of these ventures are in fact sole entrepreneurs. That is, they have no other employees other than the owner themselves. An additional 39% have 1 to 10 employees, suggesting these are also like small businesses. This is really suggesting that a lot of these ventures are these solo or small businesses that are kind of trying to make their way. When we look at website purposes, we also see that over 74% are in fact commercial purposes, suggesting that a lot of these ventures are financially or economically motivated. Another 13% are personal, 7% are community, another 2% are civic. We break down kind of these the website purposes by the size of the website. We see that a lot of these solo entrepreneurs and these small businesses are in fact commercial purposes. In fact, solo entrepreneur businesses are more likely to be out there for commercial purposes than our non-solo businesses, suggesting that what we're looking at really are these solo, economically minded, and financially motivated entrepreneurs in these venture data. If we look at, what is the purpose of this venture, we see that over 47% of individuals see this venture as like their main employment, with another 30% suggesting that's like their side job. Once again, suggesting that many of these individuals are in it for the money, including a sizable portion that kind of see their venture as a main employment or a main source of income. When we see where these businesses are usually placed, we see that a lot of these businesses have both an in-store and an online presence, with about 50% saying they have both in-store and online. About 19% saying they're in-store only, and another 32% saying they're online only, suggesting that what a lot of these businesses need is both the brick and mortar location as well as the internet in order to reach a wider audience. If we look at the intended audience, we see about 2/3 of ventures are in fact like large audience based, with about 16% looking at either their individual state or the states around them, another 23% looking nationally, 24% globally. At the same time, about 1/3 of them are focused on kind of the local community area. So 24% of these venture owners, these business owners looking at their city, another 12% looking at their neighborhood. We look at what these ventures need to succeed. We ask these venture owners 3 separate questions. What are some of the challenges you had to starting up? What are some of the resources you desired when starting up? And what are some of the ways that government can help? Now, these numbers represent the percent of individuals ranking that option, such as access to capital or whatever, in the top 3 things that they had for challenges starting up or resources they desired. We look at kind of the most rated options. We see that access to capital and marketing are some of the biggest issues that individuals had, as well as getting their business online. When it comes to resources desired, we see once again that access to capital and marketing are some of those big hitters, with 49% and 45% of individuals saying these are some resources they desired when starting up. Looking at the ways that government could help, once again, we see that access to capital and marketing are some of the big reasons why individuals had issues kind of starting their business, and the ways that they think government can help them kind of continue their business. When we look at who owns ventures, we see that we have a little bit of a discrepancy between venture owners and the US population at large. Where about 76% of the US population is white, though 78% of our sample is white. We also have smaller proportions of Black, Asian Pacific Islanders, as well as Native Americans and other indigenous populations. We also have slightly lower ethnic identification amongst venture owners, where about only 9% are Hispanic, though 18% of the US population is Hispanic, as well as foreign-born individuals, where 13% of the US population is foreign-born compared to 10% of our sample. When we break up the purpose of the website by racial identification, we see that supermajorities of every racial identification still use the website for commercial purposes, though white Americans or white respondents are more likely to say that their website is for commercial purposes than non-white individuals. However, we don't see any differences, any large differences between male and female respondents. We break down whether or not individuals receive any income from these ventures and the type of income they receive from the ventures. We see that supermajorities, 60 to 74% of all respondents still get either supplemental or main income from their venture. However, at the same exact time, we see that Black respondents are more likely to report supplemental income, while Native American respondents are more likely to report the highest income of their main income, and Asian respondents are most likely to report not receiving any income from their venture. So what we went ahead and did is we ran together a multinomial logistic regression model to kind of determine who is receiving income and who's not receiving income, controlling for all other factors. We see that female respondents are actually more likely to report receiving main income for their venture. Black respondents are more likely to report receiving supplemental income. Those at the middle level of education also report receiving main income more often, while solo entrepreneur and small businesses also report receiving supplemental or main income from the venture more often. Another thing we did is we took a look at how ventures have mediated the impact of COVID-19. As we know, a lot of businesses had to get shifted online because of COVID-19, a lot of business closures and things like that. So we asked the question of how having a website has helped these ventures shift their business from being, brick and mortar to being online or something like that. As you see, Black respondents actually report more assistance from their website shifting the business online, while white respondents are less likely to report that their website helped them shift their business online. We see no differences amongst ethnicity or amongst gender. Another thing we asked is whether or not the Paycheck Protection Program also assisted these businesses. One thing we looked at is whether or not individuals applied for the Paycheck Protection Program, which we see about equal application rates across racial lines. However, at the same time, there's very large differences in who is admitted to the Paycheck Protection Program. White respondents and Asian respondents report being admitted to the program at near similar rates. However, Black respondents, Native American, and those deemed other, mixed multiracial individuals more often report not being admitted to the Paycheck Protection Program. We look at the same exact thing broken down by ethnicity. We see a similar pattern, whereas non-Hispanic and Hispanic individuals applied for the Paycheck Protection Program at near similar rates. However, non-Hispanic individuals were admitted to the Paycheck Protection Program at higher rates than were Hispanic individuals. So kind of in summary, what do we know so far? We know that a lot of these ventures are in fact solo entrepreneurs, they're commercial enterprises, where they're seeing this venture as their main source of employment or a main source of income. At the same time, in order to get started up, a lot of these ventures, they require increased capital, they require marketing, they require support as far as managerial support, technological expertise, and things like that. And though some of these websites have helped these ventures shift online, at the same time, there's other programs like the Paycheck Protection Program that hasn't been as successful as possible due to disproportionate rates of acceptance across racial groups. Now, not only have we taken kind of this individual level approach, we've also kind of amassed this macro level data that we have on these 20 million ventures to look at how these ventures affect, county level and local level economic prosperity. So we created a measure that's the density of ventures, which is simply the number of ventures per 100 people. We see how this affects an index of county prosperity that was created by the Economic Innovation Group, which kind of measures things like education, income, employment, things like that. And as we kind of show in a lot of our research is that as you have counties with greater density of ventures, they oftentimes have greater outcomes for economic prosperity, including change in median income and unemployment. So what we kind of want to do is take the zip code data that we have and really investigate how the density of ventures and things like that particularly affect communities of color. We're currently analyzing the effects of venture density and zip codes with high Black, Hispanic, Asian, Indigenous populations, because what we really need is zip code data in order to understand these kind of urban impacts and these impacts in tribal nations. Some of the initial results are highly suggestive, showing that as you increase the density of ventures, as you have more of these ventures, these small businesses, solo entrepreneurs and things like that in an area, you end up seeing better economic outcomes, for example, Black populations. Now we have a lot of ongoing research and presentations coming up and things like that. But basically what we want to do is use the data that we have to kind of understand how the impact of these ventures affect, communities of color, their economic outcomes and things like that. So that's the full presentation. I know there's a lot there. I want to thank you all for coming. If you have any questions or comments, I'm open to all of those.